Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Good evening, and welcome to the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I am Count Numula. All right, I'm Bill.
Numula. I'm Linda.
I'm Charles.
And I'm Chris.
And I'm Stu.
And, any episode where you see Stu joining us, we're going to be talking about something to do with horror or... Well, horror, I guess.
Could be folklore.
Or folklore. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And so this episode is no different. We're going to be talking about Renfield initially, and then we're also going to jump in a little bit about the new D&D movie. So I guess, Stu, welcome. Glad to have you back on. So, Stu, I'm going to let you take us through the Renfield movie, kind of give us a brief summary, if you would, and then we can weigh in on what we thought of it. First of all, I know Linda and I and Stu have seen it. Has anyone else seen it yet?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right.
It's on the list, man.
All right, Stu, take it away.
Yes. Well, the trailers do a reasonable job preparing one for what one will see in the film. If you're familiar with the Dracula mythos through various popular culture modes, you hopefully are familiar with the character Renfield. This being a Universal production, it is, one would say, an almost direct descendant of the Lugosi film from 1931, directed by Todd Browning. Renfield is Dracula's servant who sees to his daylight needs, ranges for victims, arranges for lodging, does most of the things one would require of a personal assistant or slave. It being the year 2023, Renfield has availed himself of a self-help group and has identified himself as a codependent.
With one exception, Stu. He does not wash Dracula's cape.
This is true, yes.
It's dry clean only.
But he arranges. Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Precisely. And so he is availing himself of a self-help group and in an attempt to recover from this codependency. So it's very much a mishmash of the traditional and the modern, if you will. And it's something of an analogy for regaining one's agency through a destructive relationship.
Yeah, I think Renfield and Dracula define the quintessential toxic relationship.
Yes, as portrayed, certainly.
Yeah. So, what'd you think of it overall, Stu? Was it what you were expecting?
It was a bit of a mishmash.
Yeah.
Overall, it really tried to get in, as modern film was wont to do, because it wants to appeal to the broadest popular audience as it can. It tried to get in a lot. There are a lot of hyperkinetic action scenes that you'd be more used to seeing in a Marvel film or
superhero combat film.
or super martial arts. It's excellent fight choreography, although it's often played for laughs as well. You have people tearing off limbs and then using them as weapons. And
it was sort of in my mind, I told Linda after we watched it, it was like Kill Bill only with Dracula.
Yeah, you could say that. I was thinking the Matrix, but yeah, Kill Bill would be.
So was the music that good then? Because if you're calling on Kill Bill, there's a certain music.
Yeah, it should be. No, I was referencing it specifically from the overabundance of blood, sort of a thing. So,
fair enough. Okay.
Head taken off and fountains of blood shooting up, or torsos torn in half and blood shooting everywhere, or Renfield will jump off of a railing and land on someone's head, and a fountain of blood will shoot up. And
yes. At one point in the aftermath of a fight, Renfield just reaches out to someone on the second balcony of an apartment complex and allows them to step out onto a pile of bodies that's piled up over a story high by the time he's done with them.
Right.
So yeah, it's there is no kill like overkill, as we say.
Right.
As far as what I thought of the film, well, let's go into some aspects of it first before we talk about the overview. The character development is interesting. It has some interesting borrowings from the novel and the mythos, actually, that may go by folks who aren't as familiar with other entries in the canon. The lead actress's name, she's actually a traffic cop in the New Orleans police force who gets involved with some drug dealers that Renfield was trying to bring to Dracula. Renfield, at this point in his evolution, is trying to transition into sort of a Dexter figure, where he's preying on the bad people and saying, "I'm going to try to serve good in my serving in my
slavery to evil."
In my duties to Dracula. Yeah, I'll bring him the bad people who we want eliminated from the human race. Only problem is that Dracula doesn't like that. He wants pure of heart. And by the way, just as a side reference, I don't know if we ever talked about the Santa Clarita Diet in here, but that's a show on Netflix from a few years ago with Drew Barrymore. That's an excellent use of that trope too, by the way. If you got to be a vampire,
that's good.
Yeah, if you got to be a vampire, that's the route you should be taking.
Blood of the pure.
Yeah, unfortunately, Dracula he wants nuns,
or a busload of cheerleaders.
For the innocent victims.
And he said it's not a sexual thing with the cheerleaders. He'll go for male or female cheerleaders. He doesn't care.
Yes, he wants
it's the blood.
People.
It's the pure blood that matters.
Yes.
Sounds like pep. Sounds like a lot of pep.
Yeah. So in the course of trying to bring these drug dealers to Dracula, Renfield gets involved in them, of course, and this traffic cop with much higher aspirations stops one of the well-known mob leaders in New Orleans. Yeah, the film is set in New Orleans, by the way. It makes a little use of the background, not excessive amount, and she ends up becoming incorporated into the story. She becomes, I would say, his putative love interest, his putative relationship. The naming of the character is significant. Her father's name was Morris Quincy, which, if you read the novel, the one of the lead character, one of the vampire hunters, is named Quincy Morris, who's patterned after Buffalo Bill in the novel. Believe it or not, if you ever read Dracula, you have these long stretches of someone speaking in a very affected Texas dialect, which is a little surreal. Stoker was a little pedantic in his characterization at times. But so you have that, and also what I didn't realize, and as someone who's taught the novel and has written on the novel, published articles on Dracula, I did not realize that even in the novel itself, Renfield does have an epiphany, not unlike we see in the film, where he figures, I'm not going to allow this to happen anymore. Dracula's killing innocents. First he tries to send Mina away, and that's something that we're more familiar with. But at one point, he says, "You know what? Everyone says I'm crazy. I'm a madman. Madmen have great strength. I'm going to tackle this guy." And so he tries to grab onto Dracula, and he's gonna mess him up. And then he realizes that that's just not the way things work.
Poor life choice.
Yeah, and Dracula, yeah, exactly. It's a very, very his last poor life choice. In fact, is Dracula just smashes his head against the ground. And that's the end of Renfield. But yeah, but that's the novel, and in this film, you're seeing Renfield really the directors and writers of the film And the director of this film, by the way, perhaps not coincidentally, is best known for Robot Chicken.
Oh.
Linda, what is this fellow's name?
Matthew Steinrich?
Who's the director of the film? Linda, do you have that up?
I thought maybe you had it off the top of your head.
I don't off the top of my head. I wish I did.
Because
this film?
Renfield.
Very.
Oh, director Chris McKay.
Chris
Okay.
McKay, yes.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
right. Yeah, I should have remembered that.
and then
Yes.
Robot Chicken, primarily like Matt Steinrich and Seth Greens.
Mhm.
They had a lot of really good writers on that, though.
Oh yes. So yeah, it's definitely played for the broad humor, and you could say that the film is really an extrapolation on this conflict of Renfield to say I'm going to get back my self-determination. Now, all this said, probably the most hyped up aspect of the film in the media, and rightfully so, is the impeccable casting of one Nicolas Cage.
Oh yeah,
Dracula.
it was good.
Over actor.
Yeah, Linda and I were talking about this prior to go time. That I think there was a choice. Do you try to have him play like a straight Lugosi type vampire with all that type of brooding menace, or do you say, Nick, we all know who you are, and we all know what you've been up to the last 30 years since you won your Oscar. Dude, just go with it.
Yeah,
And they chose option B, Nicolas Cage. It is Nicolas Cage at his Nicolas Cage.
Unleashed.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he's absolutely, completely over the top. Has an amazing amount of fun with the role. There's a rumor that he had his own teeth altered to be able to fit into the vampire dentures better.
huh?
Oh.
God.
Those were
He
some
almost
funky
ain't doing
teeth.
that.
That's
So yeah, he just for completely flipping loses it during this.
He's the whole show, really.
He is the main reason you want to go to it. I mean, I had my.
That's actually good to hear.
Pardon me?
yeah,
That's actually good to hear that he's a reason you would go to see it. It speaks to
yeah.
what his on-screen performance must have been like.
It
Right.
was
Oh, yes.
amazing.
In watching it at the end of it, I would have liked to see it with him in that role in doing it seriously, because the makeup I thought was great. His acting was great, but I would have liked to have seen it as an actual Bela Lugosi style horror film versus a comedy.
I'm
I
not sure
thought-
he could. Oh, he could probably pull it off.
Yeah, I thought he was, when he was angry, I mean, there were certain points he was just terrifying. And so I would have liked to have seen it just go that route. But
That's it. And that's a
He was good.
possibility. I hear that. If I was going to prognosticate anything come off this film, we will almost certainly see a prequel with him playing Dracula in his prime at some point. I mean, because that's really part of the mythology, is that between the Browning film from 1931 and now, Dracula and Renfield have had these adventures through, and the ending actually does leave it open, because they do the most thorough vampire destruction I've ever seen in a film movie. But even then, Renfield, bless his heart, says that I'm still not sure this is going to do it, but it will at least slow him down for a while.
yeah, I mean, to flesh out a little bit there, so to speak, of what Stu is referencing, they said there's so many different mythologies about how you take out a vampire. They said the only safe way is to do them all.
Yeah.
So they did, culminating in the final act, where they had like little bits of Dracula. They had chopped him up so fine they had little bits of him that they put him into an ice cube tray, and then they filled the ice cube tray with cement and let it dry, and then they broke the bricks out and threw them in the sewer.
Oh my gosh.
Hilarious. Ridiculous.
Yes. Just speaking as a folklorist, by the way, which is ostensibly my real avocation, the way you really want to get rid of a vampire, the way it always seems to work, is cremation. But in the most dramatic folktale I know about vampires, then you have to be careful, because if you cremate the vampire, then magpies will fly out of it, snakes will come slithering out of the fire, all kinds of stuff, and you've got to grab them all and bat them back into that fire, or else if one little crawly creature gets out.
Yeah, but in all fairness to the folklore stuff, Stu, back in the folklore days, they didn't have ice cube trays and cement.
I think the Romans did, actually.
Ice cube trays?
Have cement.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So, if you want to talk about what I actually thought of the film, and if I'd recommend it, I mean, I'd recommend it for fun, certainly. And I'm just gonna my little aside is really that if the Academy, if Hollywood politics were a little bit different than they are, Cage would really be in running for Best Supporting Actor nod. He just let it rip. You've never seen anything like this. He
nailed it.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely.
What I'm going to say though is that the film is I mean, because it's a comedy. It's trying to be funny. You know, this is very much in the Robot Chicken, over the top milieu, but it is kind of subverting its own message, and it's maybe stretching mythology a little far, because you have this idea. Really, I think what they're trying to drive home is that even someone like Renfield, you can take back your power from someone who's been nasty to you. But the people in his support group, the experiences they're going through, they're really played for laughs. They're to the point that they are laughable. And you really, and it almost comes out, it's almost somewhat disempowering to someone who's watching it for that message. It's like, dude, if you really think you can do anything with this group, it's laughable. It's something of a joke. So there's a bit of a mixed message there. It takes a lot to pull that off. Not everyone can. So it's a good movie. It's a fun movie. It's probably a little better under the influence of cannabis.
Are you going to test that theory?
He already did.
Oh.
I could say the same for the last film I was on here for, but yeah, Cocaine Bear would definitely fall under that heading as well. By the way, yeah, which is excellent. That's the greatest feminist film of the last 20 years. But what I'm looking forward to, though, in this chain, upcoming in August, there's what appears to be a more serious take on Dracula coming out, called Last Voyage of the Demeter. Which is
and
it's really the same concept, really, where you take just a very small sliver of Stoker, and there are so many micro stories in the novel that you can do this as a filmmaker or someone who's using other kind of intertextuality to build on the story. And it's just taking this portion of a chapter about Dracula's sea voyage from Transylvania to London, and how he, in the novel, by the end of the voyage, he's killed everyone on board.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then they have these incredibly creepy stories about this phantom who is stalking everyone on the ship. And so someone's taken this and they've made a whole film about it. And that looks exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's definitely not a comedy. That looks pretty horrifying. So that's really good.
So far though, you never know, honest to goodness. And then and upcoming, I don't know if it's going to be out this year yet, or this might even be in 2024, is a remake of Nosferatu from Bill Eggers, who did The Witch, which is excellent, and who did the Lighthouse, which I understand is excellent, which I haven't seen.
If that guy's doing Nosferatu, it's gonna be creepy as fuck.
Yeah, the Lighthouse was amazing.
Yeah,
and,
it was intense.
Starring Bill Skarsgård, who is a
I love him.
Who is a top-rate actor. He's a fantastic guy.
Wait, The Lighthouse. I'm thinking of the one with Robert Pattinson.
No, he's talking about the new movie coming out with Skarsgård.
Oh, okay. As Nosferatu. Okay, yeah.
Skarsgård is good. I believe he's playing Orlok. Willem Dafoe, who actually the guy who played Orlok in a film Shadow of the Vampire 20 some years ago. He's in there playing essentially the Van Helsing character. But yep, so that's another film that's upcoming. And so in a nutshell, really, I think Universal has with the failure of The Mummy, with the lack of success of Dracula Untold, their remake of the Wolfman is one of the worst films I've ever seen. I hated that movie.
Nah.
I think they've largely abandoned the straight idea of the dark universe to go in the Marvel milieu, but I think they have seen that they have a lot of material to work with their old films in terms of remakes, or in the case of Renfield and the upcoming Last Voyage of the Meteor, of dissections of their old films. I think so. That's really the way they're going, really, and perhaps not a bad way. Perhaps we'll see some very good stuff out of this.
All right, sounds good. Well, I think we should move on real quick and switch over to the Dungeons and Dragons movie. And Jenna, I know you had some theories on that and you wanted to jump into that, so I'll let you take it away here.
We can't jump into the theories without talking about the movie itself first, which I think to say, unlike the previous Dungeons and Dragons done, in the 90s?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This one seemed to have a lot more love and nuance of the game itself.
Right.
We did this because the little details on either the different types of people and the different types of role and races, it's pretty well executed.
Well, and it's so much what they can do with the special effects with the creatures and stuff now is so much better than it was in the 90s. That that owl bear was amazing, and just the whole show. I thought the whole show was great. The acting was great. The storyline was great, and I want to see more. I hope they come back and do some more of these.
Chris, do you want to lay out the summary of what this movie's about?
Yeah, so Chris Pine is kind of one of the leads in this, as well as his partner actress. I just blanked on her name, but she plays Holga.
Michelle Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you. And it's pretty interesting. So it starts out with basically a prison break that goes more or less horribly wrong, but works out in their favor anyways, even though they were about to be pardoned and let out anyways. They took the hard way out. And it's a story of betrayal and a quest to get a I don't know if I call it an amulet, but maybe it was an amulet.
It was a tablet.
A tablet with a certain spell on it to bring a lost loved one back, or whoever you want back to life. So Chris Pine's wife is taken from him in this, and his daughter ends up losing his daughter, going to prison for a few years, and his daughter is raised by who we thought was a friend, who turns out to be pretty much what he is, a con man. Who takes over a city basically and warps lies into his daughter's mind, and Chris Pine kind of goes on this quest to get her back and get this tablet so he can bring his wife back. And during this movie, it's an adventure on how they go about accomplishing all those things in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, and they did a phenomenal job in doing it, between the fight scenes and the action that they have, the magic that's portrayed. And it was a movie that didn't really slow down really at any point. It just kept going, and it kept a lot of humor mixed in as well. So here you have, a party of a bard. Let me see if I can get the appropriate things for all of them. We have a bard, a mage, a rogue, and a druid. And they all play kind of true to their parts in this movie, and it made it very much enjoyable. Bill was mentioning earlier an owlbear that the druid changes into, and that was one of the most fantastic parts of the film. It was pretty freaking awesome. But then we also have a bard, who does his part, if anything, just for distractions, jumps in and does his little playing of things. But then there's also the parts where, you know, there's a scene where earlier on in the film where, you know, one of the characters has a kind of distressing relationship that she goes back home to. You know, when they go to leave and continue their journey, he strikes up a tune on his guitar as they're riding away and just kind of gives an uplifting tune to start singing to, and they ride on, you know, doing the part of the bard and lifting spirits. So every little bit of detail is kind of covered in the movie, all the way down to paladins who act a little bit goofy, and Jenna can talk to that. And we even get to fight a dragon who probably ate the other dragons that were around. We'll talk about the fat dragon too, because that was actually pretty awesome. So yeah, there's a little bit of everything in the film. You get to go on this quest, mystical swords, all of it. It was pretty great. So,
all right, Jenna.
So what I really liked about this is all of the characters had their pros and cons and what they can do.
Mhm.
Nobody's a perfectly built character. And you kind of see this with Holga, Michelle Rodriguez's character, that she's a badass fighter, but she's not really emotionally like over, you know, like she's not just you know, whatever. It is what it is. And then you meet this paladin character who you think's going to stay with the party until the end, but he doesn't, and he can do everything. He's got like knowledge arcana, he's got badass fighting moves, self-defense, acrobatics, like he can do all this stuff, but his personality is so flat. I'm like, okay, so I see where he spent all his character sheet points, because there's no charm or diplomacy in that whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah, so when they get to this paladin, you know, Jenna's not exaggerating here. The guy was damn near perfect at anything he needed to do in his abilities, right? Even when, so there's a scene where the party is having to take on a dragon, and it's a fat dragon with his own drawbacks too. It's not a perfect dragon. Like Jenna said, nobody's perfect, not even the dragon. And when they're fighting, you know, they're you know, there's a scene where the paladin comes up to save the day and does this heroic like jump up and stabs the dragon, and it's just like, yeah, he would do that. He's just Mr. Perfect and everything. But then after that, it's just like you can't carry a conversation with him. He's very literal. He's very, you know, succinct in his conversations, and then that's it. There's no personality to him really whatsoever. But that also kind of was the charm, if you will. So it made that part work. And I think, you know, the scene where he just kind of walks off and goes back, like, I've done my duty here, you know, mission accomplished, I'm going to go back to do my thing. And he just walks off in a straight line. And the characters are just looking at him like, is he going to go around the rock, or is he going to, there's an obstacle in his way? What's he going to do? And he just jumps up and goes straight over the rock and just keeps on walking. And it's like, yeah, that was, you know, the guy's got a single focus, and that's what he's doing. And that's what he does. But I don't think it should have been done any other way. There was no reason to also keep him. It would have been nice to see him, because it definitely would have made their journey a lot easier having him at their side. Right. But at the same time, that's not his calling, right? He's like, oh, you need assistance, and it's my duty to assist you in this one part I can help with, and then I'm off to do my thing. And that's exactly how it went.
Right.
So,
yeah, it was good. So, you guys, 2 thumbs up, everybody, for D&D movie, or?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I think so. If you want action, you want. It's not. You can't. It's nowhere near what the old one was. So just discard all of that.
Right.
It was definitely effort made to respect what Dungeons and Dragons was, and you even have Chris Pine speaking out to that after the fact, encouraging, saying people should play Dungeons and Dragons, and because you can have just as much fun. Bill can attest to it, and a lot of us can, playing the game as much as you can watching others portray characters in the game.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I have a question to the D&D players, because I haven't seen the film, but I have a question to the D&D players in the group, who I think is just about everybody,
except for Charlie.
Well, not these days. I haven't been. I've played D&D though.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Because you're
I
talking
had a
about
childhood.
you talk about the personality of the paladin. Just in looking at that character class, over my involvement with the game for 40 years, that's sort of the way they come off in the rules. Is a guy who's among the fight is probably the most powerful of all the melee classes, but the alignment set that they are kind of locked into.
Yep.
Is somewhat cuts off your ability to do interesting things, which in itself becomes interesting.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of like writing Superman, because he's not going to be dark and edgy and broody, but then that challenges you to make other kinds of stories.
Yeah.
Has that been your experience with the Paladin as well, or do other parties get a little wilder with the Paladin?
No. Go ahead, Jenna.
I was gonna say Chris's wife plays a paladin, and she definitely has personality in it. She has limitations, but she plays the personality.
And
Chris, it's all in the.
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, Chris and Linda, how would you rate Belvalor as a paladin in the game we're playing?
I'm not.
Pretty close to that, I would say. Belvalor is very much, single-minded.
Yeah.
Of a certain purpose, and Belvalor would just leave you if it didn't align with what he was trying to do at the time.
That's true.
So he is extremely helpful, so long as he is aligned to whatever it is that you're doing, and that he can provide some service to.
And as long as he doesn't get dirty or messes up.
If he doesn't get dirty or messes up, he's not into the dirty work, but he'll do it.
Right.
So I think, Stu, that's a great question. I think they did it by the book on the Paladin, and I think again they spoke to all ranges of things that are kind of covered in D&D, and to the point where they poke fun at a bard, like, what good are you? I make the plans. I decide plan A and plan B and plan C and D, which is to go back to B.
Right. And the woman in that says, so you make plans that fail.
Yeah. So then they poke at that. So, but I mean, everything down to even the mage he's a magician that errs on the side of tricks a little bit, and as he grows in the film, was given a helm that gives some additional enhancement to some powers, and he struggles in controlling it. And a lot of it came down to self-confidence and things like that. But I took it as like, man, this guy couldn't roll an 18 or plus on a die if he tried. It's like he's basically rolling like ones and twos the whole time he's trying to master this thing and attune to it. And they even talk about that, hey, I can't just pick up a magical item and use it. I have to attune to it, and then he proceeds to fail over the next couple of days and try to do so. So there's every aspect was covered, and I think they did it in a tactful manner, and they introduced humor where it made sense. They had a lot of different creatures and things like that as well, thrown in from the Dungeons and Dragons universe, especially when they end up in the arena and they're in this little maze trap that they're in. I thought that was a pretty cool scene in how they did it, and how they found a way to get out of that situation was all very cool. And I think even there was a scene that made me think of Vox Machina, which was when the mage conjures up the hand made out of was it just dirt? I'm trying to think of what he made it out of, but it made me think of the bard in Vox Machina when his bard would summon like this virtual mystical hand or whatever that would do things.
Right.
It was cool all around. I enjoyed it.
All right.
2 thumbs up for sure.
Nice. Jenna, same rating, 2 thumbs up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's a lot of fun, and when Adelina is age appropriate, I look forward to like showing this to her, because this is definitely one of those movies that builds a great world that you just want to be in. That other series like Willow, like not the series but the movie Willow, kind of did. It creates this place you want to go back to, and I think she'll really enjoy it, or anybody old or young will enjoy it.
Right. Linda, what'd you think?
I liked it. It was I just think it was the perfect story and the characters were they played whatever they were supposed to play well. I liked it. I really liked it a lot.
Nice. And Charles, you hadn't seen it, right?
No, I didn't get to see it.
Yeah, and Stu, you haven't seen it.
I have not. I'm sorry.
All right. Well,
I had a little problem. It's the kids. I was gonna go see it.
You should take the kids to see it. They'd love it.
They vetoed.
What?
Oh,
the playground right now is not. Their friends are not being supportive of D&D, so we're gonna get there. But
sounds like they need.
Sounds like a surprise movie outing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We forget sometimes what it's like to be that age. I mean, because I have friends who actively play Dungeons and Dragons. I have friends who've never heard of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
We have different people that we do different things with, and when you're that young,
so we'll get there.
What I want.
I don't doubt that for a minute, Jenna. All right. Well, sounds good. Well, let us know if you saw the movie, what you thought of it. If not, let us know if you're going to go see it or if you're interested in seeing it now because of what you've heard on the show. So we'll look forward to hearing from you guys. Until then, have a great week. We will see you.
Oh, yeah. Let's wrap this up with talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to talk about it. Makes me sad.
So for those local to Omaha, unfortunately, the Monster Club, the themed kind of restaurant that kind of covered a lot of cult classics and as it says here, horror and sci-fi and all that, closed down, unfortunately. So, and that was fairly recent in the last month or two.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we did a show on them before. We were actually going to do a show from there, but they were never able to give us authorization to do so. So.
Maybe and that's why they failed. If we'd have only
if we had only been able to record there and let people know how great it was
today.
And they had great drinks, really good food. Yeah. It was always
themed drinks. It was all good. Yep. So unfortunate they couldn't keep their doors open.
So no reason why.
That was the place when I saw the sign on the door, because that used to be the Destiny Cafe back in the day. I used to go there to see Preston Love play jazz. And for those of you who are and now it's going to be a long time since his death, but he was the Omaha jazz legend, for most of my early life. And so that was his last regular gig was in the Destiny Cafe. In fact, I proposed to my ex-wife there. Well, actually, Preston did the proposing for me.
Oh wow!
So that area had a lot of memories for me. And so I saw that, oh my God, they're putting a monster-themed bar and grill into the space.
Perfect.
My God, if it was anything ever meant for Stu.
I thought it was a pub for a while. Wasn't it a pub?
Yeah, it was an Irish pub in the middle. It was O'Connor's Irish pub, and then that little landing where you would have where you would sit, that would look down on the stage where the musicians played, way back in the day. And then when Preston had the gig, that was upstairs where the where the vinyl lounge was, where the Jurassic Plastic vinyl lounge was. So you could still see the stage there. That was still the raised area, which was really remarkable. As far as I know a little bit of the behind the details. My impression really is, because it survived COVID. Yeah. I think they're actually doing a pretty brisk business.
Yeah, it was always crowded.
Yeah, and in fact, I've seen now what the bids are for the stuff that they're selling off, and they're really, if you're looking to get some bargains on some pint glasses, you can forget it, because they're going for premium prices right now. People are paying a lot of money for the Monster Club stuff. I think what happened was, and I realize that LLCs are set up to try to prevent this sort of thing, but I think there were some other business ventures that the owners were involved with, and this I think got attached to that bankruptcy, and I think that might have pulled them in.
So,
that sucks.
Unfortunate.
It does suck. It does seem that anytime that anything cool gets going in this town, it immediately is blown away. I don't know. I haven't been. That being said, I haven't been to the Tiki Bar yet.
Oh, we like that. That's a nice place.
The Lacalona.
Yeah, Lacalona Rum Club.
That place is awesome.
Yeah.
The Monster, especially when it first opened, the Monster Club was all classic stuff. As it progressed, it got more into Pennywise and more contemporary horror. But in the early days, it was mostly the old Universal stuff. That's
classic. Yeah.
That's really my heart song. So I wrote papers in there. I sat there and read Carmilla and read Dracula and drafted some book chapters and whatnot. But well, it got a little expensive. And speaking of the food, the food could be inconsistent. They reinvented themselves a lot. And it really maybe could have benefited from I remember when Gordon Ramsay comes in to do kitchen rescue, do kitchen dinner.
I could see him in this place.
Especially the UK version where he was much more cordial. There's less bombast. What he always does, 80% of the time when a restaurant is failing, he says, "Okay, you're almost always trying to do too much.
Yeah,
narrow it down to something. Find what you do well, focus on that, and that's going to carry you." And they were trying to do like every item on the menu had some kind of a twist, and I was like, "Can you just make a goddamn hamburger?"
Right?
Yeah,
just call it burger.
Yeah,
missed.
Pardon
What's
me?
that, Jenna?
I said either way, they'll still be sorely missed because we needed a venue like that in this town.
We did.
Oh yeah, I was absolutely heartbronken to see him close. I was like, son of a
if there's any entrepreneurs out there that want to open up a monster club, you've got at least six folks that'll be out there opening day. So
yep.
All right. Well,
I really don't think it closed because of lack of support. I think it was really more the other business ventures these guys were involved.
Yep.
All right.
That's real life.
Yep. Sounds good. Well, thank you all for watching. We will catch you next time. Until then, take care. Have a great week. And we'll see you on the next show. Thanks, Stu. Appreciate it.
Yes,
see you all.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.